Hi, in this video I'm going to be talking about female psychopaths and their representation in film. So there's several films, Single White Female, Gone Girl is another one, Fatal Attraction from 1987. There was a film called Misery with Kathy Bates. It was a Stephen King story adapted into film, which was really good. And then Basic Instinct from 1992, and the character particularly of Catherine Tramell, who was portrayed by Sharon Stone. There was also a sequel, and it wasn't as good. It was all right, but it wasn't as good as the original, in my opinion. Michael Douglas is also in the film as the detective Nick Curran, and she has various methods. She is very seductive. She's this beautiful blonde. She manipulates her victims, and she ends up murdering a lot of them with an ice pick. So in the film, it's obviously very exciting and cool, but if you were to encounter one of these women in your life, it might very well end it. So they do exist. These sorts of people do exist. So you've just got to be very, very careful with who you're dealing with in life. I've met, or been involved with, one or two in the past. So just be very careful. I'm not saying I've met sort of serial killers, but I've definitely met these sorts of characters in the past. So, Catherine Tramell, she's fictional, but she's the main villain in Basic Instinct. And what happens is she's this wealthy heiress. She's a successful novelist, and she's connected to this stabbing death of this washed-up rock musician, Johnny Boz, who was found in his bed, tied to bedposts with a white silk scarf. And she's subsequently investigated by these homicide detectives, Nick Curran, who's played by Michael Douglas. This is in San Francisco, and there's this other his partner, Gus Moran. They learn that Boz died in the same manner as a character in Tramell's recent novel. She shows little emotion when she hears about upon hearing about Boz's death, and under questioning, she behaves provocatively in this, famous scene where she's, uncrossing her legs. She's recrossing them and showing that she's not wearing underwear underneath her skirt. So Curran's looking into her history and links to the deaths of her wealthy parents who died in a boating accident, her counselor at UC Berkeley who was also killed with an ice pick in this unsolved homicide, and her former fiancé who was a famous boxer. And she has this habit of befriending imprisoned murderers, such as her girlfriend Roxy, who killed her brothers as a teenager, and Hazel Dobkins, who is this elderly woman who killed her husband and children for no apparent reason. So Nick Curran confronts her, and she taunts him with knowledge of his, drug addiction. And he killed 2 tourists on assignment while high on cocaine, and he's an alcoholic. He's shown, swigging Jack Daniels in the film, and so thinking that Tramell received the confidential information from an adversarial internal affairs investigator, Marty Nilsson, Curran's quite violent, and he gets himself suspended, and he falls into this drunken stupor. And then after Nilsson's found dead, he becomes prime suspect, and he's increasingly seduced by Catherine Tramell, and he becomes, sexually involved with her. She tells him that he'll be the basis of the character in the next novel, and then they have this sort of torrid affair with the air of a cat and mouse game. Nick Curran goes into the club and sees her sniffing cocaine in a bathroom stall, and later they have this, aggressive sex at her apartment. And then her girlfriend's jealous of the relationship. She is trying to kill Curran and dies in a car crash. And then Catherine has this grief over her death, and Curran sort of begins to doubt her guilt. And then he learns that as a college student, Tramell had a lesbian encounter with Beth Garner, who is a police psychologist he previously had an affair with. And then he finds this manuscript to Tramell's latest novel, I'm reading the final pages where the fictional detective finds his partner's dead body, and he realizes that Moran is in danger, and he's too late to stop his murder by Garner, whom he thinks, he shoots. He ends up shooting when he thinks that she's getting this gun out to kill him. And then there's evidence that's collected in her apartment, and it's pointing to her as the killer of Boz, Nilsen, Moran, and her own husband, and she's ultimately branded as the killer. But then he's confused and dejected afterwards. He knows from the manuscript that Tramell was involved in Moran's murder and somehow set up Garner, but he doesn't tell anyone. And he tries to confront her after returning to his apartment, and they end up making love, and they have this sort of pillow talk, and they're talking about the future. And Tramell is reaching for something under the bed before resuming having sex again, and then the camera goes below, like right at the end, and shows her ice pick under the bed, and showing that she could kill him, and she really does want to do it. So it's a fantastic film. It is a really, really good film, and great entertainment and everything else. But the serious messages in life, this is not cool, and these people are not cool. No matter how sexy they are extremely dangerous, and I wouldn't recommend. If you actually have any inkling, you should always trust your gut. If you have a bad feeling about someone, and you think they are out to do you harm, or physical harm or otherwise, always trust that gut instinct, whatever happens in life. And please like, share and subscribe as usual if you like my content, and see you in the next one.